All you need is one to hold out on the jury. So even if you don't get an acquittal, the worst it could be is a hung jury. You're a winner right there, you know? And if you could get to the witness, today you can't get to it, but if you could, you naturally try and kill the witnesses. Years ago, when they didn't have this Federal Protection Act, it was easier to kill the witnesses. Today it's a little harder. Even now with the jurors, it's getting harder because they make them anonymous and they sequester them. They keep them out of sight. The marshals protect them until after the trial. So it's getting more and more difficult to try to get to a jury, fix a case.
When you say get to a jury, what do you mean?
Bribe a jury. Offer them a certain amount of money to come up with a not guilty verdict.
And if they say no?
Well, if they say no, and they better get off the jury, or, well, no, not really. They better stay on the jury. They can't say no. They can't say no. They're in a position where they could save our lives. Our lives are on the line. They would have a big problem. It's hard. It's hard for a legitimate person on the jury to get confronted by a mob guy and turn around and say, no, I ain't doing that. Of course, you got to do it. And it ain't the juror's fault. He's scared. He's scared for his family. He's a legitimate guy. He don't know about all these killings and these... He ain't involved with all that kind of stuff. It's really... It's hard for a juror to really say no to somebody because they're scared to death.
Because you scared them to death?
Yeah. That's right.
As the RICO trial continued, with the unrelenting onslaught from the federal prosecutors and the overwhelming depth of the government's case, Leonetti knew his chances for an acquittal were slim. On November 19th, 1988, after 2 full days of deliberation, the jury convicted Bruno-Scarfo, Philip Leonetti, and all 15 co-defendants of every charge in the indictment. In the end, there was just too much for us to overcome. All the killings, all the violence, all the fucking treachery. It was almost like we made it easy for them to convict us. How could they not? With everything they heard. I know this sounds crazy, but when they found us guilty, God, I felt this huge sense of relief. I knew we were fucking finished. And I knew that this life, Cosa Nostra, I knew it was over for me. Nick Scarfo Jr., who was running the day-to-day operation of the now decimated crime family, with Anthony Cousin Tony Piccolo, Scarfo Sr.'s first cousin, came to visit Scarfo and Leonetti behind bars just a few days after the verdict. Nick Jr. comes in. He's telling me and my uncle what's going on out in the streets. Nobody is paying. I go out to make the pickups. Nobody is paying shit. There's no fucking structure no more. It's every fucking man for himself. I don't fucking exist out there. All right now, calm the fuck down. I went and saw Bobby the other day. I told him what was going on. Well, what the fuck did he say? He said it was over and that you have no shot on appeal. You tell that fuck Bobby and anybody else who thinks it's over. As long as we're around, and he points to me and him, it ain't ever fucking over. Nicholas the Crow Caramondi's statement regarding mob boss Nick Scarfo's psyche can be reinforced by his actions during the mid to late 80s. During this time, Scarfo ordered the murders of nearly 30 members of his own family. One of these members was Pascal Pat the Cat Spirito, who was only inducted into the Philly mob for 2 years, until Scarfo ordered his murder. Scarfo was beginning to become notorious for his ruthless nature and paranoid demeanor, constantly shifting his feelings about his closest associates, himself severely paranoid about dishonest and disloyal underlings. With any hint of perceived disrespect or insubordination came swift and brutal retribution from Scarfo, usually by close family members in a public setting.
Scarfo wouldn't hesitate to shoot somebody in a split second. He was a true gangster. He was another Al Capone. And very, very vicious. Feared no one. And this thing came first with him. He believed in this mafia with all his heart and soul.
Nick Scarfo and his nephew Philip Leonetti were a fearsome combination. Operating in Philadelphia and Atlantic City, they ruled with a reign of terror.
Our strength was people feared us because my uncle was he was a stone killer. Everybody knew when they seen one of us. There was no problem with giving up any money. Guys that were in illegal businesses that we shook down, they would give it up, no problem at all. We even had guys coming around to hang out saying, look, I'm going into this business here. I'm going to pay you now for, every week for whatever I make. They were even coming themselves. We didn't even have to go looking for them. They were scared. Everybody was scared to death of my uncle because he had a reputation for killing, because he loved to kill people.
You actually enjoyed it?
Yes. He was very powerful. They all liked him because he was a killer. A lot of guys liked that, and he wanted to kill more and more people to impress the guys in New York.
His goal was to unify all organized crime in his territory, creating a well-oiled criminal empire to rule over. Soon after becoming boss, in a move that proved his management style to be grounded in greed, he imposed the street tax on all criminal rackets in Philadelphia and South Jersey, even from petty criminals. This weekly tax came as a shock to many. While extorting cuts from other criminals was a regular mafia racket, it was considered unusual in Philadelphia. Those working independently from the mafia were expected to pay. This gave Scarfo a hand in all manner of criminal activities, from drug dealing, pimping, to bookmaking, and loan sharking. The price for not paying was the ultimate one. Scarfo made sure his soldiers dealt it out publicly and harshly. John Calabrese, loan shark, drug dealer, and pawn shop owner, was murdered by Capo Joseph Gengolini and 3 other Philly mob enforcers for refusing to pay Scarfo's street tax. As was Frankie Flowers de Alfonso, who was brutally beaten by Salvi Testa and Gino Milano before being murdered in 1985.
He always wanted the reputation. He always said, like Paul Muni said in the movie Scarface, he had a machine gun. He says, you got to use this machine gun. You got to kill people and you got to keep on killing them to be the boss. You just can't stop. You got to keep killing.
You got a hit list of 15, 20 guys to shoot on site. And night and day, we used to go hunt them down. We had teams.
Scarfo also ramped up the Philly mob's influence on the labor unions in Philadelphia, just as he had done in Atlantic City. Having had a hold over the unions since the days of Angelo Bruno, Scarfo gripped them even harder. The Philly mob maintained degrees of influence over the local branches of numerous unions: the Roofers Union, the Ironworkers Union, the Labor Union, and the Teamsters Union, using this stranglehold to siphon funds from unions. This was an extremely efficient racket for the Philly mob. It was very little work in return for massive payouts.
Nick Scarfo and his nephew Philip Leonetti were not just killers. They and the family they controlled derived tremendous power and wealth from their business operations and the rackets they ran, both in Philadelphia and Atlantic City.
How influential and powerful were Nick Scarfo and Philip Leonetti in Atlantic City?
Very, very powerful. No major construction project was done without their knowledge. No illegal activities such as loan sharking. Not so much drug activity. They weren't as heavily involved in drug activity, but loan sharking, gambling, prostitution, they had pieces of all that type of operation.
Well, we had a lot of bars that were under our control. We had businesses in the casinos, maintenance companies, where we were making money. We were making money with Local 54, which was one of the most powerful unions in Atlantic City. We had all the unions tied up in Atlantic City. Teamsters, carpenters, cement, everything.
In the early 1980s, control of Local 54, the union that supplied the workers in the casinos, gave the Mafia a stranglehold in Atlantic City.
There are 40,000 people who work here in the casinos, and the Local 54, the Bartenders Union, has about 14,000 of those people that are members of the union. They have a health and welfare fund, they have a pension fund, they have a severance fund. Scarfo was then able to, by controlling the Bartenders Union and controlling the officers of the union, he was then able to have them appoint to office people who were members of organized crime. He was able to have them hire companies that were controlled by organized crime or paying kickbacks and bribes to organized crime to provide services to them.
Well, Frank Gerace, the president of Local 54, he dealt with the casinos, with the owners. He dealt with the contracts. One time, in 1983, he was having a problem with the Playboy. And they didn't want to sign a union contract. They tried to break the union. So I sent somebody to see the owner that I know and told him, if you don't sign it, we're going to kill him. And he signed it.
Salvatore Chucky Merlino, Scarfo's oldest friend. He had been initiated into the organization by Phil Testa. He and his brother Lawrence became two of Scarfo's most trusted allies. Chucky was Scarfo's man in South Philadelphia. Lawrence Yogi Merlino, who moved to Margate, New Jersey, headed up a construction company that literally paved the mob's way into the casino building boom. Construction of any significance requires reinforced concrete. Larry Merlino controlled a company called NatNat. The company did concrete reinforcement work on several major Atlantic City projects. Scarf Inc., which was owned by Scarfo's nephew, Philip Leonetti, would then pour the concrete that became the foundation of some of the city's gaudiest casinos. Those majestic gambling palaces that line the seaside boardwalk, major construction companies hired by the casinos knew if they wanted a smooth operation in Atlantic City, it was best to hire NatNat and Scarf Inc. This message came not only from the mob, but also from the local ironworkers union, whose president would later be sentenced to 10 years in prison on labor racketeering charges. This arrangement between the mob, the construction industry, and the union was the focus of a lengthy report by the New Jersey State Commission of Investigation. The SCI found that NatNat and Scarf Inc. did subcontracting work on nearly a dozen casino and public works projects between 1981 and 1985, including the Golden Nugget, Caesars, Harrah's, the Tropicana, Hilton, Showboat, Bally's, and Resorts Casino Hotels. Ron Chance, an agent with the Organized Crime and Racketeering Section of the Department of Labor, told the SCI the mob's involvement in the Atlantic City construction boom was tacitly accepted by everybody involved. The reason for this everybody is happy. Everybody is making money. If Scarfo is making you money, and the unions can employ their members, and they make money, they are happy. The general contractors are making money. Look, everybody knows, to get along, you're going to have to do certain things. You're going to have to hire this company to do this, and hire that company to do that. That's an accepted method of doing business in Atlantic City. The casino companies turned a blind eye to the mob's extracurricular activities in the industry. Their only concern was getting their facility built and open as quickly as possible. Resorts International set gambling industry revenue records in its first year of operation. The former paint company, which opened the city's first casino in May of 1978, brought in more than $200 million in its first year. Once at a blackjack table or craps table, they would stay 4 hours, refusing to relinquish their spot for even the most fundamental calls of nature. Dealers who worked at resorts that first summer came away with dozens of horror stories about rude and obnoxious gamblers who fought with casino workers and with each other. More than one dealer was spit upon and cursed by gamblers, upset with either their luck or their inability to get a seat at one of the tables. Pushing and shoving matches were everyday occurrences. So was the unsightly scene of a gambler relieving himself at the table, rather than giving up his seat to find a men's room. New Jersey was swept with gambling fever, and the companies that hesitated, while resorts moved to monopolizing gaming, desperately wanted a piece of the multi-billion-dollar action. As a result, casino companies didn't much care what their general contractors did, so long as the facility was built on time.
But if this didn't work, we would try another way. But
And you had this sort of influence over all the casinos?
yeah, every casino that dealt with the union, which was all of them, they all had to be unionized. And Frank Gerace made money with them all.
And they knew if they didn't do what you wanted, you could just close them down?
We sure could. That's right.
Leonetti and Scarfo also controlled the local politicians. In the early 80s, they fixed the elections for the mayor of Atlantic City, Mike Matthews.
Mike Matthews was with us. We got all the unions to support Mike Matthews. We had everybody going for him. The casinos, everybody. And he won. And I had this agreement with Mike that if he won, he had to make Joe DePasquale chief of police, which he would listen to whatever we said anyway, because he was with us. We made him mayor. He couldn't have done it by himself.
You're going to see a lot of new construction. It's completed construction. I think you'll see another 3 or 4 casinos in town, and I'm very optimistic about the next 4 years.
He was under the protection of our family. He would listen to whatever our family told him to do. He had to do.
And if he didn't?
He would get killed.
Did he know that?
Yes.
The fact that Scarfo was ordering the murders of his own loyal family members did not go unnoticed. However, it was the 1984 killing of Salvi Testa that saw the stranglehold Scarfo had on the Philly mob begin to loosen. The son of former boss Philip Testa, Salvatore Testa had proven himself an extraordinarily efficient and loyal captain. Under Scarfo, Scarfo had allowed Salvi to avenge his father's murder. However, the paranoid and obsessive Scarfo began to worry about the young hitman, believing him to be rising too fast and becoming exceedingly popular within the Philly mob. So much so, Scarfo thought Salvi would eventually move against him. Salvatore Chucky Merlino, Scarfo's underboss, had a daughter. Her name was Maria. She was engaged to Salvi Testa. In 1984, the year of his murder, Salvi broke off the engagement, angering Merlino. Nicholas the Crow Caramondi, who eventually helped in the murder of Salvi, stated this regarding the event. Salvi figured, by marrying the daughter of the underboss, he'd be right there up on top. But she was a spoiled fucking brat. And a couple of months before the wedding, he backed the fuck out. When Salvi backed out, he signed his own death warrant. It was a blow to the underboss. The ultimate fucking insult. The ultimate fucking fuck you. It don't get no bigger than that.
So they gave me and my partner the hit on Testa. Now Testa felt some bad vibes because he knew what he did wasn't right, and it was pretty hard to get him because we wanted to shoot him in the store where we hung at. It was pretty hard to go away anywhere because if he saw us, he would have known. He couldn't figure out who was going to do it. So we tried for 6 or 7 months to try to get him. We just couldn't get him.
How did you feel then, knowing that one of your best friends was going to be killed?
I felt sick about it. I felt sick. And I hated, he would hang around with me every day. He would come to the office. It was during the summer while they were planning to kill him, you know. He got killed in September of '84, but during this time, every day he's at the office and I'm looking at him. And I was getting sick. And I was with him all the time. And we went out to dinner one time. And he changed. She said, Phil, let me sit over there. Because he didn't want his back to the door. So I got up. All right. I said, look, Sal. I said, if something's going to happen, if I see somebody coming in, ain't going to tell you. Somebody's going to come. He says, I know, Phil, but I'm so crazy right now. I don't know how I'm thinking. You know. He was suspicious. He felt like he was going to get killed, but then he thought maybe I won't let nothing happen to him because I could talk to my uncle. He was being really careful.
So anyway, this fella came in the store. He shook his hand. He got up and shook his hand. As soon as he turned around, the fella grabbed the gun and shot him in the head. He went down and shot me again. That night, me and my partner and another, he was a proposed member at the time, helped take the body out. This is like 9 o'clock at night, and we took it like 30 miles and dumped it in Jersey.
Testa's body was found here in the aerial section of Gloucester Township. The body was easily visible from the road, apparently dumped here hastily late last night.
Why couldn't you just say to him, look, you can't do this?
Because he would have killed me, siding with Salvi. If I would have told Salvi to run away, he would have killed Joey Punchatore and his whole family, thinking that Joey Punchatore told him. He would never expect me to do it. You know, he would trust me too much.
But some of these people must have been your friends.
Oh, some of them. Salvi Testa I loved. I spent almost 2 years with him night and day. And I knew, you know, his loyalty to this thing. And I used to get nightmares over him. I mean, I used to wake up screaming because I just loved the guy. I didn't want to see him die. So many times I wanted to tell him, why don't you leave town? But I couldn't. Every day I was trying to kill him.
While it is reasonable to assume Scarfo was more than happy with the death of Salvi, it solidified his reputation to other members of the Philly mob, and indeed all other criminal organizations in the United States, as a disloyal, paranoid, untrustworthy, dangerous individual. Even with his reputation rapidly decaying, Scarfo continued to crack down on his own organization. After underboss Salvatore Chucky Merlino's drinking became too much of a liability, Nick Scarfo demoted him to the rank of soldier, then appointed his 33-year-old nephew, Phil Leonetti, to the position. How's Mark doing? He's still in a coma. But the doctors say he's gonna make it. And maybe we can bring him home at some point. I can't have him come back to Georgia Avenue. Not after what he's done. Scarfo's youngest son, Mark, 17, attempted suicide in 1988, having been bullied relentlessly by peers and classmates about his father's criminal activities, and becoming increasingly depressed by his father's possible imprisonment. Mark hanged himself in Scarfo's concrete company, Scarf Inc. While his mother did find him, and paramedics were able to resuscitate him, Mark's brain had been deprived of oxygen for too long, as he suffered a cardiac arrest. He fell into a coma, which he remained until his death, 2014. I can't have him come back to Georgia Avenue. Not after what he's done. I got up and left the visitor's room not saying another fucking word. I was just so fucking disgusted with my uncle's response. I went back to the cell block and picked up the phone. I called the FBI. Philip Leonetti, who, as a teenager, served as a mob messenger, taking messages from his imprisoned uncle and the family's boss, Angelo Bruno, to their soldiers on the street, became a mob associate in his early 20s, a mob killer at the age of 23, a made man at 27, capo regime at the age of 28, underboss, age 33, and acting boss at the age of 34, had now taken steps at the age of 35 to do the unthinkable, become an informant and cooperate with the government.